So the resolution of Tadpole and Fish. This is part 3. A continuation of what was the relationship between a tadpole and his brother a fish. And where we left off was, something about Caterpillar's experience was strangely familiar to Frog, yet he could neither explain his understanding nor comfort Caterpillar or Sandworm. Frog felt the need to observe and to center himself. Frog said to Caterpillar, "You must climb the flower, as you feel you must. I understand that this is a strange need of yours and that it's unfamiliar to you, but it is your destiny." Caterpillar replied, "But how could you possibly understand what I'm talking about?" Frog couldn't explain, but innately understood that metamorphosis is destiny and in keeping with the balance of the meadow. As Caterpillar climbed the flower's stalk, Sandworm became enraged with Frog for encouraging such unsafe behavior. The Sandworm felt abandoned, resentful, angry, and frustrated by its inability to follow, by its lack of desire to leave the moist soil. Caterpillar climbed away, and Sandworm wished that he wanted to follow. So there were some complex feelings going on there. In the days that followed, Sandworm and Frog watched the miracle of Caterpillar as it spun its chrysalis. Sandworm spontaneously forgave Frog once it began to understand that this was Caterpillar's destiny. "This experience with you, Sandworm, helps me gain greater understanding of my own brother. He's a fish." Frog said that. "How could a sandworm help a frog understand a fish?" asked Sandworm. "I don't know, but it does," said Frog. Both Frog and Sandworm continued to observe the beauty of this spinning of the cocoon. "Who taught Caterpillar how to do that? I never knew it could have such talent. I wish I could do that. It defies every lesson we learned in our youth." Sandworm marveled at what Caterpillar was creating. In time, the beautiful butterfly emerged. It flitted, fluttered, and flew out into the distance. It had only a vague recollection of life before the chrysalis. Sandworm watched Butterfly emerge and gasped with fear and concern. "Oh no, we must never leave our patch of soil. You must help. You must help Caterpillar," shouted Sandworm to Frog. So Frog immediately hopped in pursuit of Caterpillar until it was no longer in sight. Frog felt familiar frustration, but then also felt guilty at having lost sight of Caterpillar. How could Frog explain his failure to Sandworm? Desperate, Frog asked a fallen leaf for advice. "Well, you're looking in the sky for a caterpillar?" asked the leaf. "Yes," replied Frog, because that was the last name that Caterpillar had. Caterpillar. Frog and Sandworm saw the butterfly emerge, but they still called it Caterpillar. "That is not logical," replied the leaf. "The caterpillar climbed a very tall flower, spun a chrysalis, and emerged, then flew away," Frog explained. "Oh, you're not looking for a caterpillar. You're looking for a butterfly." "Oh, why didn't you just say so?" Leaf exclaimed. "I didn't know how to ask clearly." "Oh, it must be guilt." Guilt does cloud one's ability to express. "Well, no matter. All new butterflies go to that far meadow over there." "Oh, thank you," said Frog. Leaf cautioned, but you must dissolve the guilt before you set out. Guilt weighs one down. You'll never make it in time if you carry that burden. Frog centered himself to discover how to dissolve this guilt. Thinking back to lessons he learned from Lily Pad, he found no answers. Then it came to him. Whispering angels guided his understanding that he did his best, and now it was time to move on. That's what his Iwa told him. Asking for guidance, embracing the now, and following his heart were the key. This recognition helped dissolve his feeling of guilt. Leaf stated, now you're ready to set off on your journey. Beware guilt and fear are insidious burdens, and hop onto all creatures of the meadow. Everybody feels them. Self-reflection and centering help us to regain perspective. Frog set off and finally found Butterfly. Guiding the butterfly back to its familiar friend, Sandworm, Frog delighted in the reunion he facilitated between the two friends. Frog then hopped back on his way back to the pond that he left, where his brother Fish swam. He waited patiently by the bank for his brother to swim up. Upon seeing his brother, he spontaneously jumped into the water, piercing the surface with joy and a big splash. Startled, Fish welcomed his brother, and the two then raced to their favorite stone. So there were mixed emotions at that reunion initially. Fish had not recognized his brother at first, but then all at once understood that his brother did not desert him. He had to go where he could survive. Fish knew of many frogs, but never saw his brother as one of them. And how could he? How could his brother be a frog? They grew up together. He thought he knew his brother very well. And why was his brother so different from the rest of the family? Once Fish understood that his brother was indeed a frog, the guilt, resentment, frustration, sadness, anger, and fear dissolved. Understanding does that. Understanding and acceptance of the delicate balance of the meadow helps us all reunite. Gratitude for having shared each other's early lives became a spiritually rewarding and comforting new foundation of strength to support their friendship from that point on. Recognition that Frog could hold his breath for extended periods of time to share the underworld life of his brother, but no longer able to visit for days at a time without breaking the surface. This was an adjustment they both had to make. Frog and Fish were willing to make this compromise. Fish would never be able to breathe the air that Frog needed in order to live. Sandworm would never climb the milkweed, or flit from flower to flower, but Butterfly could visit, and together they could have fun. Butterfly could no longer feel the cool, moist earth along the length of its belly, but could visit with Sandworm and share memories of their youth and stories that they brought back to each other. Each with individual gifts, blessings, and limitations, creatures of all sizes and shapes balance the meadow. The great lesson to be learned from the meadow now became apparent. We're all unique, each destined to follow our own path, and to do so is a gift and to be treasured. It takes courage to learn about and to follow one's destiny. And hopefully this helps during those holiday get-togethers. Have a wonderful holiday season, and thank you to those, you know who you are, who requested that I finish this story right now. Bye-bye for now.